Hi everyone, it's me, Arielle, and it's Wednesday Warriors. And this week we are all talking about bulimia nervosa. And my specific topics for Wednesday are bulimia nervosa triggers being hungry, feeling low, fat feelings, situations like being alone, all or nothing thinking, food feeling like a constant threat, and guilt and shame. So I'm going to try to make that into a 10-minute video, which obviously is going to be a little bit difficult because there's a lot to cover. But I'm going to be very brief. I know that there is a lot to be said about bulimia. Just like last week, there's a lot to be said about anorexia. We're all going to, I'm sure, do a very good job of talking about our specific topics. So I'm going to try to stay very specific within my topic so that I don't step on the toes of any of the other lovely ladies who are talking about other things regarding bulimia. So I do know there are many things that I will not be saying in this video. You can feel free to comment if you want to. The first thing that I wrote down when I was taking my little notes for making this video was beautiful women. And the reason I wrote that down is because I know so many beautiful women that have bulimia. And I just think, when I think of bulimia, I think of women that think that they are disgusting or they are shameful or that they're fat or they're ugly or whatever it is that they're dealing with their bulimia. And it strikes me as interesting because so many women I know that have bulimia are so incredibly beautiful. And I don't mean that just because I want to be a kind person. I mean that because they really are truly beautiful inside and outside. I'll leave it at that. But, bulimia kind of, much like anorexia, it sort of strips the mind of logic. It strips the mind of love for the self. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Other diagnoses often go hand in hand with bulimia. For example, depression, anxiety, body dysmorphic disorder, which we've talked about before. Bulimia is all about compensating, binging and then purging to compensate for the binge. So a lot of compensation issues occur with bulimia. Many bulimics also use exercise as a form of purging. If they binge, they may purge, but they may also over-exercise to rid themselves of excess calories. So the first topic, triggers of being hungry. For a person without bulimia, hunger means that they're going to eat. And for a person with bulimia, being hungry can be a severe trigger because it means that they will very likely binge. The simple act of eating a regular meal can become a trigger and turn into a binge. Someone who is bulimic might be hungry. They sit down to eat a piece of chicken or something, for example, and it doesn't stop there. It's almost like a compulsion. They're compelled to eat more. So that is pretty much cut and dry for the triggers, the being hungry feeling, things like that. It's almost, I want to say, scary to feel hungry when you are suffering from bulimia because you know what that might entail. Are you going to be able to stop yourself when enough is enough? And if you don't, that you'll probably end up purging. So it's very vicious. And then the next topic is feeling low and fat feelings. I think many people don't realize that while anorexia and bulimia are very different disorders, they're also very alike in a lot of ways. Feeling low happens in both disorders. Feeling fat can also happen with both. And obviously triggers occur with both. They're a lot more similar than many people give them credit for. While a bulimic may give in to hunger when an anorexic would starve, the other extreme really isn't any better. Letting hunger turn to a binge can be really dangerous, especially when coupled with purging. Many bulimics have an overwhelming sense of shame. For some sick reason, the act of purging is less glamorous than starving, and this is really unfortunate because a lot of anorexics are seen as having more willpower than people who are bulimic, and it's just really ridiculous, and it's really maddening, and it really hurts me because people are just so misinformed. And I mean, fasting and starving are by no means more glamorous, but they're sort of made out to be that way. And I also don't mean to say that bulimics don't ever starve or fast. They do. I mean, many do. And I just like to say it. Being bulimic is nothing to be ashamed of. It's not. Holding shame around your eating disorder will only cause it to fester and cause you to hurt yourself more. This is a prime reason why many bulimics are not able to love themselves. They're so disgusted or so ashamed and just do not realize that this is a serious illness. What's more, many friends and family don't treat it as a serious illness. They think it's something that can be stopped easily, but that's far from the truth, as many of us know. The binging and purging is very much an addictive behavior, so the more it's done, the harder it is to stop. I think that it's worth noting that many people suffering from bulimia feel that they're not sick because they're at a normal weight. And this is so untrue. Bulimia wreaks havoc on the body, and it doesn't take long for the effects to become detrimental. Weight has nothing to do with how sick a person is, and you need to realize that first and foremost with any disorder. I'm tempted to say that most bulimics have some sort of body image issue in addition to their eating disorder, which fuels it, but this is certainly not always the case. I tend to say it's more so the case with bulimia than with anorexia, but again, this is just generalization. And feeling upset with one's body or the fat on one's body is often a key factor in the illness. As with anorexia and other eating disorders, abuse and trauma can have serious effects as well. And then the other topic here is all or nothing thinking. And this is a really big thing with bulimia. It's the first thing that I think of when I think of bulimia. I know a fair amount of bulimics who will fast for periods of time only to eat and find it results in a binge. They think that if they have one bite of cake, they might as well just eat the whole piece because they already screwed up, or they've had one piece of cake, which makes them feel terrible. So they figure they might as well just eat several pieces of cake and binge because they really messed up and their whole day is already shot. So they might as well just, let it all go to hell. It's a really key mindset. It really sort of explains the illness well. This kind of thinking is really typical. It does not make you a bad person, and it doesn't mean that you have no willpower. It's part of the illness. And it often seems that there must be no food or a lot of food, so that's the all or nothing thinking too. And so often purging follows the food intake. It's a vicious cycle. And then food feeling like a constant threat. Food as a threat is a really big roadblock in recovery from bulimia, and having certain foods in the house can really upset the recovery. Some foods might have been binge foods. They may torment the recovering person. It's really important for all parties involved to be aware of the threat food and be aware that the threat any food may cause to someone with bulimia. Food often holds a lot of power, but you have to remember that giving food power over you is silly. You can be more powerful than food, and you already are, and you want to be. And until this happens, you will falter and you'll find it hard to stay on track. Food has to be seen as food, not comfort, not punishment, not a coping mechanism for what's wrong. And then the last thing here is the guilt and shame factor, which I touched on a little bit earlier here. Guilt and shame are basically like brick walls if you're trying to recover. You have to let go of the shame. Guilt is not necessary. You're hurting yourself enough by dealing with the bulimia. Don't hurt yourself more by piling on the guilt. Shame is extremely natural when dealing with eating disorders of any kind, but it's true that a sense of pride or accomplishment often accompanies anorexia, and bulimia is different. It's very much societal, the feelings of shame that surround it, that is. Both illnesses are serious, both are fatal, and both are very real. Bulimia should hold no more shame than any other disease. So today, cut yourself some slack, and remember that you are not alone. Thousands of people struggle with bulimia, and don't give up. The second that you give up and give into this, the sooner it will take you under, and it will be very, very hard to come up for air. Get help. There's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing at all. You're worth loving by yourself and by others. Bulimia is treatable. It's treatable. You don't have to live like this. It's like any other eating disorder. Anorexia is also treatable. I mean, I know these things are hard to treat. They're hard to recover from, but bulimia is treatable. I know recovered bulimics. Recovered. Not recovering, recovered. Take one day at a time. Don't bite off more than you can chew, pun intended, and don't let shame get the better of you. You are better than this, and you can beat this. I don't want you to be a statistic. You're too important. Have a great week, everyone.